stress on the vocal cord when you yell, all right? But the majority of what's going to be present is elastic. So dense, regular, elastic. Dense, lots of fibers, regular in a pattern, elastic telling me what type. Now, if it's dense, irregular, collagenous. Dense, lot of fibers, irregular, not in a pattern, collagenous, collagen fibers are dominant. Does that make sense? Okay. The fibers are arranged randomly. This is what forms the innermost layer of the dermis. It affects scar formation. It'll affect people's ability for either having scars or not. Okay? Like, for example, have you ever heard of keloid formation? Okay? I have that. I don't know if anybody else does. It's the reason I can't get my ears pierced. Okay? Because in the case of something breaching my skin too much, I get an overproduction of collagen fibers, and it creates a very big scar. Like like as a kid growing up, the way that we found out about it, and this shows how old I am, I still have the smallpox scar because I had to get that vaccination.
I have that too.
Oh, you do?
Because I was born in another country.
Got it from another country. I don't think they do it now here. I don't think they've done it here for a long time. But before we went to school, we had to have a smallpox vaccine. And what they did was they took what looked like a sewing needle, scraped your arm, okay, and put the smallpox vaccine in it. They just dropped it on there. Well, as you go through the healing, okay, if it heals, then you're good, all right? Well, that's how they found out that I had the keloid formation, because I created this great big huge scar. And so if it was before school started, 5 years old maybe when we had it done, 4, 5, all right? And that's when, the doctor was like, oh no, don't ever let her get her ears pierced. And if you look at like pictures of people who have the keloid formation, and if they have gotten it, sometimes they can be lucky, okay? They may not have any problem, but sometimes they end up with a great big scar on their ear. So, it's like, oh man, the one thing I only ever wanted was like a pair of diamond earrings, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't even have my diamond earrings. So it's due to the fact that this is found under the skin that would get breached and therefore create a problem. We're going to also see that this type of connective tissue helps to make the capsule of the kidney, which I keep showing, all right, and then the spleen. Okay, so funny, it's not funny, but a lady I was talking to yesterday who had gallbladder surgery, she was talking about, okay, well, at this point in my life, no longer have the appendix, no longer have the gallbladder, and no longer have the tonsils. And she goes, well, at least I've got my spleen. And I was like, well, that's a good one to keep. You can live without it, but it's a good one to keep. But dense, irregular, lots of fibers that are present. They're not creating a nice form like we saw with the waves. Okay, it looks kind of mixed up. And collagen, lots of collagen fibers.
Do you mind going back and showing the waves versus
Okay, so look at and see, notice how this one just looks like it splotches. Okay? Yeah. It looks to me like a splotch, 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 splotch. Okay? Regular. Regular.
So regular, irregular.
Regular or in a pattern. When it's irregular, no true pattern is present. So we can have dense, irregular collagen. We can have dense, irregular, elastic. So once again, even though it looks like there is some structure, but based on how it looks like it does this number, it skips, starts again, stops, skips, they consider it to be irregular. So now, dense, full of fibers, irregular, not a true shape, and the type, elastic. It can create a bundle or a sheet. The fibers, they're oriented in multiple directions. Note how I tried to point out, it looks like it starts and stops. Does everybody kind of see that? Okay. A really good place, the place, okay? Elastic arteries. Really think about that aorta leaving your heart, okay? The large to medium arteries, definitely. Makes it strong yet elastic. Stretch, recoil, stretch, recoil. If you think about the aorta of the heart, as blood pumps out, we need it to stretch, recoil, stretch, recoil. So dense, irregular, elastic. That leads us up to the next one, which gets interesting. Supporting connective tissue. Okay. In the video, did you hear the lady mention quite a few times lacunae? Lacunae, lacunae, lacunae. Okay. So under the supporting connective tissue, cartilage, bone. The first one we're going to talk about, cartilage. Okay. The term for cartilage is chondro. Okay? Now remember, blast is immature, helps to give rise to, okay? Site, mature, classed, break it down. Now, for cartilage, made up of chondrocytes. Chondro would tell me cartilage, cyte would tell me mature. But wait a minute. If I think about cartilage, okay, in between these bones, I'll try to find a piece at break time. I've got something that looks like it's very contained. Is that right? Looks like it's very contained in between these bones. All right? Now, that means that this structure that I get for a piece of cartilage, remember, semi-rigid, okay? That matrix, like the squishy jello, okay, is semi-rigid now. I have to give rise to that. For that to occur, I'm going to need a chondroblast. So let's say I have a chondroblast. The job, secrete my matrix, secrete my cartilage. And that's what it'll do. It will secrete my cartilage. And once it does that, because it's secreting it all the way around itself, it will eventually get stuck. And it gets stuck in its lacuna. Do you happen to know what the term lacuna means? Home. So what was a chondroblast that began to lay down the matrix? As it laid down the matrix, it got stuck, and it's now a chondrocyte in its home, the lacuna.
Once it's stuck, it's a chondrocyte.
Once it's stuck, it now becomes the chondrocyte because the goal now, does cartilage grow or change?
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
if you break that bone. But you think about a cartilage like right here, in between the bones. Does that cartilage grow or change? No. It now needs to maintain. And the chondrocyte works to maintain the cartilage.
So are you saying that those other sizes remain the same since birth?
It will grow and develop with birth because it will match the growth of the bone because we've got the tissue there to help do that. Once bone has finished growing, cartilage is too, and now the goal, maintain. Take a break, be back at 9:30.